Hey, friends. If you have been feeling an underlying unease lately, like your shoulders are just a little tighter, or your sleep is a little more troubled, or your patience is a little shorter, you are not alone. It is not just you. As a therapist for a quarter century, I sit with people every day, who are feeling it too. This quiet but persistent hum of anxiety, a nervous system on high alert, as if we're all bracing for that next headline, the next policy change, the next moment when the world seems to lurch unexpectedly. I'm a Canadian, and for many of us Canadians, there's this sense of helplessness. We're watching from across the border as tariffs are imposed. We see international aid get cut, and real people will have empty bellies or won't receive life-giving meds. It's going to matter. And we watch hardworking folks who need to buy groceries get fired in an email or find out their employment is gone with a tweet. It feels chaotic, unpredictable, and scarily, probably irreparable. And if you're American, I can only imagine how much heavier that weight is, how much closer it feels to home. You're our cousins just to the south. We care about you. We have visited you. You have visited us. You matter to us. I've been a therapist, like I said, for a quarter century, and there are two other times when I can remember where clients would come in, a lot of clients, just about every client would come in with this sense of, oh, because of what's happening, I'm not okay. And those two times were right in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. And then in the very first weeks, couple of months of the pandemic, everybody came in and said, this thing in the news is freaking me out and I am not okay. We were all shaken and it influenced all of us. I hack into people's lives for a living and I could feel the distress of North America, of global politics in people's bodies. When you feel that now, you are not alone. What was interesting was the clients that were coming in would tell me that. But anecdotally, amongst my colleagues and I, we found out that actually our caseloads dropped because there were people that weren't coming in for therapy because of economic uncertainty. And fewer people were starting therapy because although they felt the uncertainty, they also felt the financial insecurity and the instability that said, I'm not going to start anything new right now, even therapy, because it did not seem like a good idea. In those two other times where anecdotally I found myself and my colleagues not having a lot of new clients, our caseloads would drop. What was interesting was about 3 or 4 months after 9/11 and 3 or 4 months into the COVID-19 epidemic, the number of people seeking therapy spiked. But here's where it gets interesting. People wouldn't come in saying the pandemic or 9/11 is freaking me out. People would come in because of marital distress, job stress, depression, etc. And surprisingly, most people in that spike of new clients, they wouldn't have identified the personal impact of the global struggle. They just knew that they weren't okay and that they were struggling. They wouldn't have identified that there was this impact of the political situation that mattered in terms of how they were working through the tough stuff in their own lives. So this isn't just about politics. It's about the way uncertainty impacts us as human beings. Our nervous systems are wired for safety, for predictability, and for connection. And when the ground feels unsteady, when the decisions seem random, aggressive, or disconnected from the realities we live in, it shakes us. That's a normal reaction by a normal person to an abnormal situation. What happens is we find we withdraw a little, we guard our hearts a little more, and we struggle to be present with the people right in front of us. Because really, how do you have a deep and meaningful conversation when your brain is busy running disastrous scenarios in the background? I want you to know this. If you're feeling anxious, irritable, exhausted, if you have found yourself doom scrolling when you're meant to be making dinner, or if your laughter feels a little forced lately, it makes sense. It is not a personal failing. It is a natural response to a world that feels unpredictable for us all right now. In a world that feels increasingly divisive and hostile, I want you to know that you are not alone. Can I invite you to live that truth of not being alone, live that out in your life in very practical and real ways? Can you live it so that it makes it harder for your nervous system to feel isolated? And can you, in doing that for yourself, also help others to feel more connected? And maybe because you've been deliberate in meeting them a little more than halfway, because it's pretty hard to go even halfway these days. Because here's the thing, in times of uncertainty, it can feel like we have two choices. We can shut life out, or we can lean in. We can pull away, or we can push into one another, toward one another. If there's one small act of rebellion against chaos, it's this: kindness, compassion, mercy, and grace. If there's one thing you can do, it's giving somebody goodness without them deserving it or having earned it, but just giving it to them because that radical act of seeing and hearing one another when the world feels like it's spinning too fast, it changes the world and it will change you. So here's my invitation to you, wherever you are and whatever you're feeling today. Do something like buy your neighbor a coffee, just because. Right now, put this on pause, text a friend, just because. Tell them you're thinking about them and just let them know one thing you admire about them without any reason to do so, but just to simply have that land in their inbox. Check on a friend who you have sensed is struggling. Show up for a local cause that matters to you. Give of your time, give of your money, make a difference in this world with your generosity. Find an opportunity to laugh with somebody, deeply, fully from the bottom of your belly, the kind that reminds you that joy still exists. Anne Lamott says that laughter is carbonated holiness, and I think we could all use laughter in that way these days. These things may feel small, but they are not insignificant. These are acts of resistance in a world full of fear. And these acts of mercy, grace, generosity remind us that no government, no policy, no erratic decision-making can take away our ability to care for one another. The world may feel chaotic, but we are not without power. And we may not be able to control the big things, but we sure as heck can control the small ones. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real change begins. This is Carolyn Clausen from the Loneliness Course. Do take care, friend.